wanted to make a start, not least so that we try and avoid the rain. Really appreciate on behalf of West Belfast Original and RBP 375 you all coming here tonight. And Sir Knight Johnson will be with the thank yous at the very end of the formalities here. If we think back 100 years ago, the backdrop in Ulster had been home rule crisis and the serious threat to the Union. Here in West Belfast, in this hall, the Ulster Covenant was signed on the 29th of September, which was to become Ulster Day, a key and significant day in our wee country's history. The UVF was founded on the 13th of January 1913, and of course here at West Belfast was a principal recruiting station for the UVF. The UVF locally trained in this hall and in inclement weather, but also trained at Burnhill House in Glencairn, the seat of the Cunningham family, who were connected to the Orange Institution here in West Belfast in the then Nelson Memorial Temperance LOL 527. The commanding officer of that organisation and that battalion was Stuart Blacker Quinn, whose sword we have proudly on display here in this hall. The guns and the uniforms were bought by the Cunningham family. Indeed, Josiah Cunningham paid for some of the uniforms and guns by cheque. Guns were imported in Ulster because of the Home Rule crisis and the threat to the Union. Local pawnbroker Robert Adjie, who was based at Peters Hill, worked with Red Cofford in securing those guns to come to Ulster. With the outbreak of war in September 1914, the UVF began and became part of the British Army. The 36th Ulster Division was formed out of the UVF, and a proud and distinguished regiment it became, as we all know. Locally here in West Belfast, the 9th Battalion of the Royal Irish Rifles were given that number principally because so many of them were members of our own number 9 district here, based in West Belfast. These brave men fought for sovereignty in nation and empire, with great valour and distinction, not least at the Somme on the 1st of July 1916. So tonight we gather here to remember them and remember all who served Ulster, honoured the King and country. They were the cream of this road, the cream of Ireland. They were the bravest of the brave, and we pay tribute tonight to them. We're delighted to have with us tonight the Right Honourable Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, MP, the Member of Parliament for Lagan Valley. Geoffrey is Chair of the Northern Ireland Great War Committee. We're delighted to have Geoffrey here to speak to us this evening. Geoffrey.
Thank you very much, William, and thank you to all of you for coming out this evening for this centenary event. And as I was listening to William talk a little bit about the history of this area and its connection with the Great War and the events leading up to that war, I was trying to figure out what you would have had to give a pawnbroker to get a gun in those days. But our history is diverse, but it's very important to us. And tonight we're gathered to commemorate a particular centenary event connected with the First World War. And as chairperson of the Northern Ireland World War I Centenary Committee, I want to commend everyone in this area who's been involved in the centenary commemorations over the last 5 years, from 2014 right through. I had the privilege of attending the event in Woodvale Park when the memorial was unveiled, and you will, if you go to the park this evening, be able to see that. And I know that there have been many other events as well. And William is right. It is appropriate that we remember those who gave so much in that war. And indeed, when we consider their sacrifice, and as we approach the centenary of Northern Ireland itself, I think it's worth recalling that we probably wouldn't have a Northern Ireland if it hadn't been for their sacrifice. And when we get to 2021 and we celebrate 100 years of Northern Ireland, I think we do well also to commemorate the men and the women who laid down their lives so that we would have the opportunity to continue as a free part of the United Kingdom. I want to thank also local historians Sam Coulter and Bobby Foster, who've been very much involved in the lead up to this event. It was they who, through their research, were able to actually locate the memorial oak known as the Peace Tree in Woodvale Park. There were a number of these trees planted at the time after the armistice, after the war had ended. But Woodvale, the one in Woodvale Park, is the only one we can identify at the moment out of the 7 memorial peace trees that were planted at the end of the First World War. So this evening is a very special occasion because it's not just about the war, it's about the peace that followed. And of course, the sacrifice of those who fought was to secure that peace, and that peace is very important for all of us in terms of what those men fought and died for. Some of you will have the programme for this evening, and if you look at the images on the programme, on the back of your programme there's a scan of the front cover of the programme that was used at the event back on the 9th of August 1919, when the people of this area celebrated the peace and commemorated those who had made the peace possible. But it's also important to remember that the memorial oak is not just commemorate the men who fought as soldiers, but also those who fought in the Navy and in the Royal Air Force, or the Royal Flying Corps as it was before it became the Royal Air Force. And we're delighted this evening to have the Royal Navy Cadets with us who will take part in this part of this evening's event. But we're commemorating tonight the contribution of all of the armed forces during the First World War. The fact that this oak tree has survived these 100 years, I think, also reminds us that we have come a long way too and survived quite a bit over the last few years, and we are thankful for that, and the Reverend Malcolmson will give thanks for that, because I know that this area survived not only the First World War, with many of the people who left the Shankill and the Woodvale to go and fight in that war who did not come home. But I'm also mindful that we've come through some very dark and difficult years in our more recent history, and that this area has come through that, and that we enjoy a relative degree of peace that we want to sustain. So the memorial oak stands as a symbol to that peace. So once again, I want to thank all of those who've been involved in this evening's events. I want to thank Brian Kingston in particular, who has done a lot of work to make the preparations, my colleague William Humphrey, MLA, who's also been involved, and of course I've mentioned already Sam and Bobby, who've done a lot of work and research into the background to this. But also to thank all of you for coming along and marking this event. In a way, this event this evening draws a line under the Centenary, because it marks the moment when the peace trees were planted and when people celebrated the peace and commemorated those who had died in the war. And we do the same this evening. And as we do that, let us remember the men and the women from this area who went out, women in the nursing corps and in other ancillary roles, and the men who fought in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. We remember each one of them, the families represented, maybe some families here this evening who represent some of those men and women. And we give thanks for their sacrifice, for their courage, and for their service, and to those who came home as well. And so I want now to pass on to the representatives of the cadets who will unveil memorial plaques here on the wall of West Belfast Orange Hall, and then to the Reverend Dr. William Malcolmson, who will lead us in a prayer of dedication. Thank you for your support this evening.
remember at this present time that our help is still in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. And it is in the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the faith of our Protestant Reformation and heritage, that we dedicate these memorial tablets to the glory of God and in memory of those who served in and those who never returned from the Great War, 1914-1918. We receive these tablets and we will guard them with honour and with a deep sense of thanksgiving. In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, these memorial tablets are now so dedicated. Honour and majesty are before the Lord, strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Blessed be the name of the Lord our God, the God of Israel, from henceforward and forevermore. Amen.
First of all, on behalf of the Sons of Ulster RBP 375, I would like to thank you all to come to this event. I would especially like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Sandy Close for donating the two special memorial stones. Over the years, I've been a great support to the Sons of Ulster RBP 375 from West Belfast, Orange Hall. I would also like to thank the First Shankill Song Association for donating the property. And I would also like to thank the Alexander Flores for creating and donating the special memorial wreath that will be laid at the Peace Tree. For the peace celebrations in 1919, this would have been a floral tribute for the time as poppy wreaths were still 2 years away. Field Marshal Earl Douglas Haig, founder and president of the British Legion, adopted the Flanders poppy as an emblem for the Legion. This was formalised in autumn 1921. The first British poppy appeal was launched that year in the run-up to the 11th of November 1921. It was the third anniversary of amnesty to the end of the Great War. Since that time, the red poppy has been sold each year by the British Legion from mid-October to raise funds in support of the organisation's Celebrate work. The British Legion was granted Royal Charter on the 29th of May 1971 and has been named the Royal British Legion from that time. Tonight our designated charity is the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, or the CWGC. Their work commemorates the war dead. They maintain cemeteries and memorials at 23,000 locations, more than 150 countries, all with the extensive records and achievements. Their values and aims laid out in 1917 are as relevant now as they were 100 years ago. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission honours the 1.7 million men and women of the Commonwealth forces who died in the First and Second World Wars, and assures they will never be forgotten. Before we set off on this memorial parade, I would like to read you a message sent from His Majesty George V. To the Ulster Division officers, non-commissioned officers and men, your prompt, periodic answer to the nation's calls and arms will never be forgotten. I am confident in the field you will nobly uphold the traditions and the fine regiments whose names you bear. Ever since your enrolment, I have closely watched the growth and steady progress of all your units. I shall continue to follow with interest and fortunes of your division. In bidding you farewell, I pray that God may bless you in all your undertakings. The message was dated the 30th September 1915. On the 11th of November 1918, the Ulster Division was in Musken in Belgium. It remained there throughout the period. Demolition, the Ulster Division ceased to exist on the 29th of June 1919. The Great War cost 36 Ulster Division 32,186 casualties. Men killed, wounded or missing. I now call this parade to order and ask you to take your positions and follow the instructions of the Marshal. We will step off when the band finishes the tribute. The regimental band, Ulster Volunteer Force.
There's a way to